All right, the recording is on. Fernando, go ahead, share your screen and take it away.
Thanks a lot. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you everyone for coming. And this is going to be fun. Hopefully, we are going to talk about testing Roche's Maxim of data transformation. And then this is the agenda. What's the Roche's Maxim of data transformation? So have you heard about it? Who has heard about it? Could you raise your hand? Everyone? Not everyone. We have 6, 7. We have half of the audience. And then maybe one of you could state what does Roche's Maxim say? Who could help?
Send transformations as far back to the source as possible and make transformations in Power Query as needed.
Well,
Close.
more or less. Someone else want to try?
As close to the source as possible as as far to the report as necessary. I can't remember the right.
Paul's got his hand up.
Upstream and downstream.
Upstream, downstream.
Yes, I was going to edit my answer and go upstream and downstream.
As possible and as needed. Well, I have a link, and we are not going to spend much time there. But, well, yes, it's very important to understand that as far upstream as possible means close to the source. And as far downstream as necessary means close to the user. So next, we are going to have a business case. And the business case in brief is we have a bunch of pallets or boxes. And then downstream, we are going to do it in DAX. And upstream, we are going to try it in Power Query. This is the menu option for today. We could also do it in SQL in the data warehouse. But for today's session, we are going to talk about DAX and Power Query. All right. Okay, a little bit about me. I live near Veracruz, Mexico, 90 kilometers from that city. I was an accountant before, trying to learn every day, or in the frenzy to catching up. I try to exercise. I like Power Query, Fabric, and still Power Addict because I built a Power App this last weekend. Here's my LinkedIn, my Blue Sky, and a GitHub link where I'm already all the material from this session is. So the business case. So this is a palette. In case anybody now, let me see. How do I do it? Where is my mouse? Here. Here. 1 second, I'm trying to find my mouse. There it is. So this is the palette. And of course, these are the boxes, no? So the business case is, you are a data analyst helping the logistics director to build a Power BI report to show actual stock of material. And the material is stored in pallets of different capacities, big, medium, and small. And then each pallet stores a number of boxes depending on its size. And then you need to convert the quantity of material from pallets to boxes. So hopefully this is a business case that some of you have experienced. Maybe if you would like to raise your hand if you have faced this challenge. I see one hand, but it's from the previous question. No one has faced this problem in Power BI? Well, okay. So let's continue. References. Here, if you click here, you find the Roche's Maxim of data transformation, and it's from 2021. So it's a little bit old. Here is the Microsoft documentation for the DAX function lookup value. And then this is a great blog post from Alberto Ferrari explaining the lookup value, and we will take a look to it. And then here, Greg Deckler explained why totals don't match in a matrix visual. And then SQL BI explains formula engine and storage engine from the Vertipack engine in Power BI very clearly. Those are videos. And here again is my GitHub link where all the material that we are going to see is already there.
Fernando,
And then
when you share these materials, will these, because I'm not able to follow the links through this presentation, you know what I mean? I'm not finding them actionable, but maybe when you share it with Kevin afterwards, we can follow the links.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, let me move this here. And very quickly.
Didn't you say you had this in a GitHub somewhere?
Yes. It's already there. 1 second. And now you have it. Okay, and then did I post the correct one? Yes. And then the last link I have is a session in SQL Bits 24 by Alexander Arvidsson, Roche's Maxim of data transformation by example. And then I just found it today, in a couple of hours ago. And I just watched it, and it's excellent. If you have time, watch it. It's completely different of what you are going to see here now. Alexander is a speaker from years, and I'm not, as you can see, but I don't care. Okay, and then let's do it. This was the last slide, and now let's work with Power BI. Okay, well, here you have a beautiful dashboard with a landing page, and we are going to start looking at the data. This is the data, and then we have a column for article ID. We have the quantity, and we have the quantity unit key. All right, then let's go to our dimension table and see the quantity unit key means 1 is a big palette, 2 is a medium palette, and 3 is a small palette. So if we go back to our fact table and we take a look at the first record, we have 150 units or pallets of the quantity unit key is 1, which means is a big pallet that has 48 boxes. And then if you try to calculate this, 150 times 48, we should have 7,200 boxes in the first record. And then that's it. That's what the exercise we are going to make. we are going to transform this quantity from pallets to boxes. All right. Is that clear? Any questions so far? Okay, good. So first, we are going to work with, well, as you can see, it's only 6 records, no? Work downstream. And then we have the number of rows in our table, which is 6. And then what do we have here? We already have the original quantity, 150 for the first record, big pallet, and then the converted quantity. The correct amount that we saw, 7,200 boxes. And then this is the exercise for all our records. Let's do it. So what I'm going to do is to copy this matrix visual, copy, and then clean it a little bit. And then we are going to go to our data and transform. Okay, so we have our first inventory transactions table, which is called here fact, not for any reason. And then let's duplicate it. And then let's call it fact live. And then what do we need? We need to do the job in DAX. So we are going to take our fact table live. And then we are going to look in our dimension table for the conversion quantity. This is what we want. 48 boxes for this key. So how do we do it? Let's start. First, let's write. I don't know how to write DAX with bigger font. How should I do it?
If you hold your control and use do you have a scroll button on your mouse? That would make it bigger.
No, another F4.
You have a wheel? You have a wheel on your mouse?
No.
Oh.
It's not working.
Two finger drag up and down? No.
There is, it works now. No.
Not that yeah, sorry.
There, it works. Nice. Okay, so our measure is going to be called converted quantity for downstream, small. Then we need to use the lookup value function. And then let me show you this article by Alberto, which is just great. Lookup value. He's going to calculate unit price. He's looking at the product table unit price. This is what you want to retrieve, the unit price. Column to search in, he looks at the product key column in the product table. And then the value to search for, he goes back to the sales table and looks for the product key. So it's really easy, no? So we see that we need to look at the pallets table to the conversion column. This is the value we want. And then we are going to look at the unit key. Hopefully this, no? We are going to look at the unit key, right, from the dimension. And then we just have to go back to our inventory table, which is called fact life, to look for the quantity unit key. So fact life, fact life, and I can't. So this is the exercise working as far downstream as necessary in this example. And then
yeah, I was wondering how you're going to fix that, like necessary.
We
like it's
started
necessary.
with trouble.
Necessary to make the point, right?
Amon, help me.
Oh, no, I'm not helpful at all. Kevin
No.
knows that. No, I'm just here to just.
Well, let's try max. And then we have fact live. Now we can do it. Quantity unit key. That was close, no? That was close. Need to close this. So looks like we solved the first problem. Let's close it here. And let's bring it here. Let's bring our article. And well, let's make a measure for the original quantity. Original quantity. I advise everyone not to DAX live. This is the exercise I'm doing. Original quantity downstream small. It's just a sum of fact life quantity. And then bring it here. Original quantity and our measure of converted quantity, but on this step. Okay, we have achieved our original quantity. Well, it's correct now. Those are pallets. And then we know that this first record is in a big pallet that has 48 boxes each pallet. So we're on our way. So let's continue. What do we need to do now? Well, multiply this by the original quantity of pallets. All right. And then let me just quickly put a comma. And then what do you think? We have our 7,200 boxes, which is correct. Excellent. Everything all right? Any comments, questions, suggestions?
Well,
Your total's not right.
Yeah,
the total is not right. But why? Of course, 25,000 plus all these doesn't make 24,000.
So Fernando, I had to draw it for a second, but can you tell me, is the dim table related to the fact table?
Yes, sure. Well, not in this case, because it's new. Not in this case.
Got it. Okay.
But I can do it right now. Pallets. Oh, still the same. Bath DAX. So here is where when you hit your head on the wall and start calling Kevin. at night. But then here is where you have to know this. Measure totals. Greg Deckler, and he wrote this in 2018, the first time. 2018, but then last edited in 21. And then this is one of his main arguments against DAX and Microsoft. But the link is already there and in the material, and he solves this problem. So let's do it. So we need to create a new measure. And the new measure is going to be called total quantity small downstream. Okay, so we need a variable, which is going to be called table. And this table variable is going to be summarize. And then we want to summarize by our FactLive table by the article ID. We want to group by article ID. And then we need a name, and the name would be quantity. And then we need an expression, and the expression is our converted quantity. Converted quantity downstream. Hopefully this, no. Converted quantity downstream, small. Well, this is our temporary table in DAX, and things start to be a little bit complicated, no? And then let's finish this measure. And then let's say if has one value, our fact table article ID, if we are having a row context with the article of our fact table, and we know that our converted quantity is correct in that level, then we just use our measure. Converted quantity downstream, small. But what happens if it's not? If we are looking at the total. So in this case, we need to do something different. Then we need to do a sum x. And then we use our virtual table from our variable above. And our expression would be the result of our quantity column that we find in our virtual table. And this is the measure for our total. Hopefully, no? Let's put a comma and let's use it. And then FactLive. Oh, what do you think? Now we have the correct total. That was not easy, no? What do you all think?
Not fun at all.
I would not want to do it that way.
No, but that's not it. What about performance? Aha. All right. Let's bring performance analyzer, and then let's bring our friend DAX Studio. As if you hear that DAX Studio is no longer useful, that's not true. Okay, well, first, let's hit performance analyzer. It's here. And then when you select it, you see this pane. Sorry. You see this pane. Sorry again. Now, where you have start recording, and that's what you press now, start recording. And then when you press start recording and you hover over your visuals, you see this little icon. And then it says analyze this visual. It says analyze this visual. Let's use it. Okay. And then we have, well, what's the result? We have this. We are interested in the DAX query at this moment because we are only reviewing one visual object of our report. This is what we are interested in. We see that it's really fast, but let's take a look. Copy query and go to DAX Studio. We paste it here and we go to server timings, enable server timings. We wait now, and then something else we do is we check here and run to clear cache, and then run. Okay, it finished. So now we can go to server timings and take a look. And what do we see? Well, what we see is not pretty because it took 20 milliseconds, which is not too much, but it took 18 milliseconds in the formula engine. This is the formula engine, and 2 milliseconds in the storage engine, and it ran 15 queries for 6 rows. Imagine what would happen with a bigger table. Well, don't imagine. Let's take a look. And I'm going to click on this tab, the big downstream, and please, well, let me stop and clear the query performance analyzer, and please take a look to the screen. Nothing happens, it's thinking, you see? Well, now finished thinking, and what do we have? We have 1 million rows, which is big, depends, not really, but bigger than 6. And then we have the same. We have original quantity in the units, big, medium, and small pallets, and then we need to convert. I'm not going to do the same measure because it's the same. I have a friend and asked him to make my table, to take my 6 rows and make it 1 million. And that's it. I'm not going to do the same DAX measure again, but why don't we check performance for this table? All right, so start recording, and then hover over this object, visual object, and analyze this visual. This is what we are interested on. And this is still thinking, if you see here. All right, then DAX query took 4.5 seconds. Copy query, go to DAX Studio, open a new query window, paste our query, enable server timings, wait, clear on run, and run. And then wait again. Finished. And what do we see? We see that it took 5.3 seconds, because these are milliseconds. 5.3 seconds. Imagine that you have a C-suite executive from your company waiting 5 seconds for a visual to render. That's not nice. You don't want that. And then it's using Formula Engine 87%, and the storage engine 12%. Still used 12 queries to work. And this is ugly. This was downstream using DAX. What's the point? The point is that we fixed, solved the challenge, solved the problem, delivered the correct value, but not performant. And it was difficult. So let's stop here. And then let's do it upstream. And upstream, as I mentioned, we are going to do it in Power Queries or in Power Query for this example. And so how do we do it? Let's go to transform data. And then we have, let's say, our large data set. As you can see, is the same article ID, quantity, and then quantity unit key is the same, but with 1 million records. And then let's duplicate it and call it upstream. Upstream live. All right. How would you solve this problem? Well, we have our dimension table here, palettes. And we know that we need this column. The 48 boxes or 12 or 32. So we go back to our fact table and we do a merge here, a merge. We click on merge queries. And then go to palettes. And I am missing a light bulb here, but doesn't matter. We use quantity unit key as a left outer join. And then we get this. We have this icon, which says that we need to expand this column to choose. And then they present the palettes table, and we choose what we want. And what we want is only the conversion. And then, as you see, we have now the conversion factor, which is nice. And then what we can do is just multiply this by that, like this, and call it converted quantity. And then now we have our converted quantity here. And what else can we do? Well, remove the columns that we don't need anymore. What do we don't need? The original quantity and the conversion. And then look at our fact table, thin and long, as it should be. We only have our article ID, quantity unit key, which is not useful anymore, and the converted quantity. So maybe as better, let me fix this and bring the converted quantity. And then in remove the quantity unit key and keep the converted quantity. So this is better. All these are boxes. All right, we have a thin fact table. We can close Power Query Editor. And then we have to wait. Any questions so far? Comments, suggestions, complaints? It finished. Well, if there are no questions, let me copy this visual object here and then clean it. Let's bring from our new table the article. No. We don't want the article because there are 1 million articles. Maybe only the converted quantity. I know. I'm missing some. Don't use implicit measures. We need to build our measure. And here is where I keep telling Kevin that my preferred DAX function is total converted quantity equals sum. Sum large data upstream converted quantity, which I don't see. This one. So look at our DAX. One line, and then I bring it to our table. And then look at this. Correct result. In one line of DAX with a sum, and that's it. What do you think? Well, let's don't stop there. Let's check performance. So let's go back to Performance Analyzer, start recording, and then hover our visual. We could hover over this other visual because I only took the original quantity and the original unit of measure. It's the same. Well, I can do both. Analyze this visual. All right. Let me do it again. Start recording, analyze this visual, not working as it should. This one, not working. Start recording, analyze this visual. Nothing appears. Why? Let me go back to small upstream, stop, clear. This is not, these are the demo goths against me.
Well, we did see how fast it was. It was definitely not 4.5 seconds.
Yes, but it's not working. It's unbelievable.
Because the query is not showing up.
I don't know. Interesting, no?
Mm-hmm.
Start, it's blank.
Mm-hmm.
Clear, fresh, stop. Refresh all visuals, nothing happens. Well, let's close it. Open it again. So this is part of the fun, but to fail live while they are recording you.
You're brave, Fernando.
You've got this.
I've got this. So
It's going to fix itself.
I could have cried, but now, no. Okay, upstream is the same. Let's just check performance, start recording, analyze this visual. We have 5 milliseconds for 1 million for the same table. Copy query, go back to DAX Studio. Hopefully it works because it's a new connection. No. Okay, let's close it. Open it again. There it is. We copy our query, server timings, clear and run. And look at this. One query, 10 milliseconds. And in previous example was 5 seconds, 16 queries. And then this is just instant and you get the same results. And this is testing Roche's Maxim of data transformation. This is what I wanted to show you. I experienced this in person because for one real life business scenario, I started for, I don't know what reason, working with DAX with the lookup value function until I stopped and said, come on, let's do it upstream. And I thought this was a great example to show everyone.
So thank you very much. I wanted to ask you a question. Sure. You go into DAX Studio to get that formula engine, storage engine breakdown.
Yes.
That's the reason to go there, because you could look at the query inside Power BI, but to actually get that simulation and the breakdown.
Yes,
okay,
the server timings work in Power in DAX Studio.
And then my second question is the inference were to make that if something is running slow and it's spending most of its time in the formula engine, it's probably not a good solution, because you would expect that the cost would be in moving the storage engine cost, because you're moving a lot of data or something. Like I'm trying to understand. This last example, it was only 10 milliseconds, so you can't really draw conclusions except that it's short. But in the larger examples, when it was 80% or 90% formula engine, or is the suggestion that that's generally an example of some poor DAX? Like, is that the conclusion we should draw?
Basically, the time it took and the number of queries. The implication of formula engine and storage engine could take just 2 days to explain. Marco explains it very nicely in 30 minutes in the videos, in the links I provided. And so the whole point, I think, Kevin, you could jump and help. The storage engine, you go to the source to bring the results. And the formula engine, you don't have the results in the source. You have to make some calculations that the storage engine doesn't know how to do. And then that's where the formula engine comes and makes the calculations. But the whole point is just at the end, the time it took to render the query, which, as you saw, is just day and night.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. No, I thank you very much. I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, anybody can throw something in, but since I'm talking, I'll say one other thing. I always kind of thought if I'm finding myself using lookup value, I've probably taken a wrong turn and I probably screwed up something. Like I'd have to have really painted myself into a corner where there's just, it's as downstream as necessary, right? Like I just, for some reason, like, and so it should be very rare, I think, to find lookup value in my files, but I don't really know how representative that is. So, I mean, I don't know, do folks routinely use lookup value?
Well, I'll share that I don't look. That's why I was asking if the dim was related to fact, because my first thought is use related over the iterator before something like lookup value.
Also, yes, true.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando, of course, here I appreciate you're making a point. I get that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like it was put there because people are used to Excel being able to look up things, and like it simulates an Excel lookup. But I just kind of figured that's not sort of the way, right? Like capital T, capital W. Is that fair to say? Like if you're new to DAX and you find yourself using lookup value, is that a sign that maybe you haven't got your model set up right?
Yes, absolutely. As you saw here, you could do it somewhere else in a more efficient way.
So Fernando, can I comment just to take a stab at the formula engine, the storage engine?
Of course, please.
I think that whenever you use a complex if condition statement, you're setting yourself up for the formula engine to have to peek out to the formula engine and ask it to solve each of those conditions.
Right.
So if then switches can be costly if you're not careful.
You're saying that it doesn't like dynamically decide which path to execute. It computes all of them it just spends the cycles to compute all of them. Like they would call, I mean, in chips they call it speculative execution, but like even if it doesn't necessarily need it, it computes it anyway, so that when it comes time to make the decision, everything's already been computed.
Well,
Right?
so yeah, so actually it depends, and the engine can handle if thens a couple different ways. But if I remember my optimizing DAX chapters, I think I remember that an if then condition decision like that can't be made in the simplicity of the storage engine that does simple queries and simple math very well and very quickly. But I didn't see the query well enough. But if you get into the query, you may see all these little queries that are essentially jumping out of the storage engine to ask the formula engine to produce the example for the if then each time it has to make a decision.
And that's expensive.
That's expensive. Each little jump out the window from the storage engine that's iterating through all of those conditions is expensive for sure. It's added steps.
Yes, I can show the queries again if you want.
So Fernando, when you encountered this situation and you were working in DAX and then you had the epiphany, did you did you even get to performance yet? Was it on the complexity? Just on DAX complexity alone, it's worth going upstream, right? Even before you get to performance problems.
Yes, no, this happened to me recently. And of course, I didn't complete the process. I just stopped, didn't finish. When I was strolling with all these, I stopped. And then I started thinking.
Good choice.
For example, there is another business case with currency conversion. And then maybe you try again to convert sales amount in a different currency to dollars or the opposite with DAX. And then you could use the same function, lookup value, but with a lot of parameters, for example, date and currency, and that's even more complex. But well, here are the queries, Mark, if you want to take a look in this view or in another view.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get into it here, but the term that you're looking for is callback. And if you see the term callback, that's code for it needs to take a break, jump out of the storage engine and ask the formula engine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either in the logical query plan or the physical, but you might see this term callback.
Yeah, and if I understood, Mark, what you were saying, like this isn't a complex bit of logic with a bunch of conditional statements. Like this code, you don't expect to see that, but did I read you right? In the examples they used in the optimizing chapter, which I have not read, they use examples that are almost like antagonistic, like they're deliberately like doing all these left to the right, to the left, to the right, whatever.
Yeah, like you're asking for trouble. My phone's so small, but do you see any callbacks? Like callback ID or something?
So Dean made a comment. Some people are limited to working in DAX. I don't know, Dean, if you want to.
So, I mean, one thing you could use it for is even to show the results without necessarily, like, later on, you're going to go back to the data and fix it, or you're going to fix your views or whatever. I'm thinking about an environment where, you have a PBI developer and a data team that doesn't do anything with PBI. So you kind of do that. You can do that to, like, proof of concept and say, here's what we want to do. This works. Stakeholders like it. And then go back to the data team and say, hey, guys, can you make these changes, right? Rather than going back to them for every single thing, because you don't want to optimize it if you don't know it's going to be in production. So, I mean, that's just one example where you can use it and go back later and fix it if you want to or need to.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point. You don't you don't.
So like I said, it's easy, right? And you just do it, and you don't necessarily care about performance at that time in the development cycle.
Right. Yeah, I mean the overly complex DAX notwithstanding, like solving it the most expedient way that's not performant is fine for a proof of concept to see if there's buy-in, and then down the road you can do the improvements. Yeah, that makes sense. That's fair.
Maybe not, right? Maybe they say we don't want to mess with our data model right now.
Right.
So okay, it's not as performant as it could be, but yeah.
But that's okay because it turned out it wasn't going to go forward. Yeah, that's a fair case of like when you would want to solve it in DAX. I'm trying to be even and equal time for equal sides,
Not advocating that, just saying that's a possible use case.
So we do have a question on the chat asking what book exactly are you guys referring to? I figured it's the definitive guide to DAX, but I didn't want to guess that.
The Bible.
Oh, it's so the one I was specifically talking about was the optimizing DAX book from
Optimizing
Alberto
DAX.
Marco. It was they coined it the brick because it was so huge.
Mhm.
But it came out after the third edition of the DAX Bible.
How many
Second
pages?
edition. Oh gosh. I don't know,
Like
1,000.
1,000?
Yeah, I think it's 1,000.
The brick.
The brick. It's blue.
Yeah, I thought it was 800.
It's long enough.
Same difference.
Some people use it to put bottles of wine.
Hold the door open.
Well, this is what I wanted to share with you. I think it's interesting.
No, and for people who are new to DAX, this idea that, look, there's different ways to solve a problem, and definitely some ways are better than others. I mean, better from the sense of simplicity. And if you do have the ability to modify the Power Query, I think in this situation, it's pretty clear, right? Fernando, it's pretty clear. It's much simpler to do it upstream in Power Query.
Right.
So for Fernando, I'll just share that as an Excel analyst that's coming from Excel into Power BI, I think my tendency was to realize that this tool was super powerful and it compressed and it was fast. I felt like I had no need to transform my model, and I definitely wasn't thinking to ask IT to make transformations upstream. So this, for someone coming from Excel that has no experience in this, is super valuable.
Yes, I've heard that you need to find a DBA friend, and if you give them a chocolate biscuit, it helps.
Yes. That or go through the pain of a growing model and more complex stacks.
Well, and I think also another point here is that, whenever you do things as far as upstream as possible, it can help you. I don't want to call it simplify your model, but in a way, simplify your model to the point to where it's more sustainable, right? Sometimes your model can get so complicated that it's able to answer some questions that are really simple. But then as more and more questions come from the business, it's just not feasible unless you go and revise the model.
All right. Well, thanks, Fernando. I'm gonna go
Kevin
ahead.
is there.
I was here. I said something earlier.
Thank you, Fernando.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
Thank you, Fernando.